Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Just Us. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to take the DJ re-edits to the pro level. Let's get started. So how do we do that? We simply are going to be adding VST effects and audio effects. That can include sub impacts, risers, sweep ups, to on the VST side, EQs, filters, reverb, and so forth. And just throwing some elements in there like reversing certain vocals, to add a reverb effect, or even the instrumental part from like a guitar, and so forth. And today's songs we'll be using from 17. And why? A couple reasons is because it's my latest DJ mix, so if you haven't checked it out, please do. But also, this is a good example of songs that just don't have extended mixes out there, that you'll have to create your own. And this is a perfectly good example. So let's get started with Super. So as you can see right here, I'll start what I did first. I pretty much grabbed the end of the song from Super, from the instrumental, and put that as my last 32 beats for the end of my intro. And why do I use the end part? So if you've seen my beginner and advanced tutorials, you'll understand that pretty much the end of the song, or any general song in particular, that they have all the elements thrown into the end, and so forth, as you can hear right now. Everything's thrown out there. So I like that because I want the end of my intro to be big before it goes into the song. So that's why I chose that. Now for me, I need it to be filtered out because I'm needing this big build up, and so the first plugin I use for the end of this part is Endless Smile. Endless Smile is basically like a filter combination plugin. It does filtering, reverb, and low pass filtering out, all while making it clean. It's one of the best plugins, and simply what it's doing right here is just simply fading the song out with the reverb and filter. Which is great. I think that could be good enough for you, but that wasn't enough for me. I felt, for me personally, my DJ edits, they need a snare roll with some risers and so forth, just to make it more powerful. And normally I could have just added some foreign elements, like thrown my own snare roll in there, built it and so forth, and on my own. But particularly when I try stick, when I'm doing my edits or re-edits in general, I kind of like to use the elements in the song if I can. And luckily Super has a good build up with some sweeper effects, which you can hear right here. And it has a nice fill towards the end, which is great. So what I did was now add these two combinations. But if you've seen like my other videos, when you add two tracks together, especially songs that have been mastered, you're gonna have to probably cut some low end and so forth. Now this song already cut the low end from the filter, but that's not enough. I need to go onto this instrumental part, which I made a clone of, and added a Pro EQ and rolled off some low end. So you can see right here, I cut off on the 126 hertz. I usually go no more than 200, because then you're starting to hear just unnatural filtering, in my opinion. And now if I hear these both together, it sounds like this. Sounds great. But for me, when I was listening to these on my big speakers, there was still too much, a little bit low end on the first instrumental. So all I did simply was just use the built-in EQ from FL Studio on that track and rolled off the low end. So if I take this part off, you're gonna see it roll off right now. That's just a couple off. So while I'm bringing that part in, the second instrumental, they're not colliding as much. And you especially want this because you're playing at bigger clubs or venues, and they have really good subs. You don't want it to be muddy. So that's why I rolled off a little bit more low end. And then to top it off, I added audio effect, which is just a sub drop, which is just right here. So you can hear it right now. Now, for certain audio effects, you can try to put them in the key of the song. I don't recall if super is in the F key, but if it is, then great, I did that. But sometimes I just go off my ear and, hey, whatever sounds great at the time I click, whatever audio effect, that's it right there. So now if you combine all these elements together, it's going to sound like this. That sounds amazing. I love it. That's a perfectly good, simple, but very pro level re-edit. Now let's go on to the next song, Hot. Alright, and this one I'm going to be showing you how it's a very simple intro, but what makes it special is the end of that intro. I add some little effects to make it unique. So I never really have too much sometimes trouble making a good intro. So it's just a simple loop of this part here for the first 32 beats. And then I bring in... So just that to make it... But nothing special. It was already good enough the way it was. But the beginning of the song, there was just two things I didn't like. It was just coming in, and the guitar part just comes in, and there was just no it was too low. Also, the guitar part is very low, then it hits the song and then it's loud. So you kind of want to do two things when you have this kind of problem. First, locate the low end parts of the song. So originally this song guitar part is very low, as you can hear right here. So it's not terrible from a dynamic standpoint. That's great, but from sometimes playing in big venues or just in clubs, like, you probably won't be able to hear that possibly, or even in small places that don't have big speakers. You're like, did they stop the music or so forth? So this is why sometimes when that happens, I'll make a unique sample. So you can just simply in File Studio cut whatever your part you need, and then right click and then make unique sample, and then now that will only be affected, so forth. So what I did specifically for this one, I added a compressor. So I used the sausage fattener from The Life. It's a great compressor. All it just needs is just like a little bit, and your volume's up with a little bit fatness it adds, and compare it to the original to this. Amazing. But again, I said it just starts off like that. This is the original part. That's not enough, especially if I'm doing this build up with my DJ mix right here. So that's it. So what I did was two things before I got into that part. I'll show you right now. Is add another sub drop audio effect. Boom, simple. And then because it's song's called Hot, and pretty much I was thinking of a desert, so I use actually some elemental audio effects, which basically is just a simple desert effect. But what I did very uniquely, you'll hear right now, is that I added a reversed guitar part from the song itself. So you hear it come in right there. And this is really easy to do. You can do this with vocals or any part that doesn't have that coming in. So what you want to do is grab that part of whatever you want to make of the reverse, and grab the first bar, typically. And in any DAW, you want to make that unique. You don't want it to interfere, because we're going to reverse that audio clip. And first I'll make this unique. And then now I'm going to go into there and reverse it, because we're going to reverse it back once we're done. So to get that effect, you either add a reverb, a delay, whatever you need to make it big, to make it long. So on this one, I just use the Valhalla Room plugin. It's a great plugin. I typically just use the standard default preset from Chambers, vocal and long delay, and that's pretty much good enough for me. So when I did it right here, you'll hear it right here. But of course, now we need to process that audio part. So simply, you're just gonna loop how much you want right there, and then you're gonna file, export it out, and call it whatever. I'll call it reverb sample 2. and then make sure you turn off your audio effect of that reverb because we don't need it anymore, and we don't need this anymore. And now bring in that part, and you see it right there. Now obviously if we hear it real quick, that's not what I want. So like I said, you're gonna have to reverse it. So we reversed it. Now we take a listen. And there you go. And then now I'll simply, like I did on this one, I've just faded out because when it hits that first bar, I don't want it to be colliding with the original first bar because then you'll have two big sounds. So I just fade it out to make it sound natural as possible, and the end result would be that. And that's another way of taking your DJ re-edits to the pro level. Now let's move on to another one. Let's go to Cry. Don't want to cry. This one, I remember correctly, there was really no good part particularly because the other part were too energetic, and especially for this type of song, it has a very low BPM, 100, not terribly too fast, but I didn't want the first 32 bars of my intro to be like super impactful like the way the last 32 bars are for the intro. So if you can hear right here, it's not terrible. I could use that in the first 32 bars, but typically for me when I DJ, I like my ending of my outro of the last 32 beats to be hype because I'm ending that on a good note, and the first 32 beats of my other song for the intro, I like it to be simple because I'm bringing that up, because if I try to do two big things at once, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But typically, I want it to be clean because I'm bringing that next song in, and then when that 32 beats ends for that other song, the other part comes in big, hard, and impactful. So that's why I typically like to make my first 32 bars of my intro clean. But like I said, there was no good part in there without it being too hype. So I decided that this part was good enough. There's really no bass line, but it has a nice rhythm to it. And what I did was, there's a part in the song, luckily, that has a clean kick part. Like I said, I could have just added my own snare roll, my own kick from my library, but like I said, I don't like to add foreign elements unless I really want to. I could have made my own snare roll, I could have made my own kick, but I didn't because I like to use the elements in the song because it keeps it more natural. So there's a part in the song right here, I'll show you because this is where I use the kick, where it's this part of the song. So I couldn't grab this kick of the part because it obviously has the synth part, and there probably a hi-hat in there mixed there. Literally the first kick of that part is clean, and just to make sure I don't get any of that other end part, I just cut it right there, and then now I have a clean kick. So now right here, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So that's awesome. So now if I combine that with that, I made my intro. I made my own intro from the elements itself. Typically that would have been good enough, but what I did additionally was add another part of the song that's I feel when I heard it is like literally the part of the song, which is this. And this has a bass, so it all goes together. And with this part, if I remember correctly, I added EQ because I just wanted to roll off a little bit of that low end. There's still a little too much low ends, and like I said, I like to keep it clean for my intros for at least my first 32 bars. So I simply just added a Pro EQ 3 and rolled off a little bit low end, and then that is the result right there you hear. And now when I add these all together, oh man, it's great, I love it. And typically for me, the first 32 beats of my intro, I like to add a little fill part for that last last bar, or maybe the last I don't know, 8 bars before the next 32 beats of the intro. So I did right here was my own little kick build up, so you can hear right now. Let's go. And that's a perfectly good example of just using the elements of the song itself, but adding plugins to help roll off some low end and so forth. And here's another good example of what I do right here. So in this song, if you've heard it, you would know that the intro is really low. Like, it's not bad, like in dynamic and music production standpoint, because it's great. But like I said, playing at venues that are small or possibly big, you may not hear it and so forth. So all I did was just add a standard clipper. This is basically a clipper VST, and all I do was just maximize the volume enough to where I believed it sounded loud enough on my big speakers, and this was the result. Just a little hint of upwards volume, and then I just roll it off the mix level of that, because then when it hits to this part, it gets loud. And I don't need it. That's the only part that's low in the song that I needed to be clipped up, personally. So that's it for that example of how I turned that song into a pro level. Now I'll do the last song. It's just another example of a reverse reverb effect. I believe I did it in the 2-1. Let me see. Yes, this is it. Yes. So I just use this is actually a part I use of the chorus, because the chorus is so good. It has a nice last 8 bars. Has a good like guitar rhythm part that feels like that's a good ending for the intro. So I'll just show you real quick. That's awesome. I love that. And then all I did was just faded out that end part because it has a nice sub part. And then for me, the original song, it starts, if you heard it as well, it just starts like this. You listen to this. That's great. I love that. That's not terrible. But what I did was I added a first 16 bars of just the guitar part, because this would sound really good, and especially when I add a deep orchestral deep impact. This is what I felt was really good with it. It sounded awesome. Now I could have just done like this. Not bad, not bad. I think that's perfect fine. But like I said, I have a real stickler for I want it to be clean. So what I did was I added a vocal reverse effect from the actual vocal itself. So if you just want to hear it by itself, it sounds like this. And then when you add the song back, say it's like if you're actually breathing into the mic, and so forth. So it's the same way how I did that guitar part. You grab the first bar. If you get the instrumental, the vocal a cappella alone, great. If you're working purely with just that part and you're trying to get that, it's maybe a little bit hard, maybe not, but right here, you just grab that, make it unique, like I said. And I'll show you how I did this. So right here, what you can do is then put it to an effect rack. Roll off some of that low end, because you hear that bass part. If you can't find the instrumental and vocals separately, roll it off. So let me grab my Pro EQ right here. I'm gonna roll off that low end. Now, like I said, typically I don't like to go 200 and downwards or upwards. Because it starts sounding a little natural, but because that bass line is so thick, I may have to. So we'll test it dramatically first. That's good enough. And then I'll add the Valhalla room, like I said. I'll just use the same chambers, vocal delay. For this though, I will I'll put it up more, the bass over. because I just don't want too much low end coming into the reverb. So then reverse this. Okay, not bad. And then we're going to just export this out, reverse. Drag it back in. And then all we're simply going to do is reverse it back. And then let's hear it. Pretty good. Then you could add a compressor. Maybe I should have done that beforehand to make it increase, but you can just increase the volume right here if you want to, if it's not big enough. And now if I add that part back and then roll that off, maybe right there, it should sound pretty good. There you go. And then with that part, and there you go. That's how you can make some of your DJ re-edits to the pro level, by doing stuff like that, because now your mix of your re-edit just sounds even cleaner. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know if you want to hear any more of my 17 re-edits or edits and how I approach them, or any other of my re-edits or edits or matchups I've done in my DJ mixes. Also, look forward to be coming out with the next series, which is edits, and then after that one, the matchups and how I approach them. So look forward to those. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, like I said, if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys on the beat. Bye.